Oh yes. How are we getting on with the barbecue, babe? Yeah. So far, so good.
Barbecue number 4, I think.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Rog? Will you get any barbecue today? If you're lucky, boy. Who is it, Rog? Who is it? Who's behind the door? Hey, how we doing?
Hey, Roger.
It's Ryan.
How you doing?
Oh, good.
Never fetch my bike.
Yeah, come through, yeah. Who's that? Who's that? Hey! Who is it, Rog? Rog, who is it? 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 It's Neil!
So, sparkling sake, I've never even known such thing exists.
So this one feels quite sweet.
Oh, wow.
See, this is what I'm telling you.
And here we go, Melissa. Giving it the grand opening. Perfect. Let's get the show of the road. So what we're going to make then, Melissa?
We're gonna make magic happen.
Love it. You up for some magic, Ryan?
That's what she said. But yeah, Pete, we're gonna go with the cherry blossom cocktail to start with.
Okay.
Which is one of those ones that's been handed back from generation to generation.
Through your family, or
Exactly.
is this mummy's secret recipe we're dealing with here? All right,
Did I ever tell you my name's Ryan Miller Gochu?
son.
Miller Gochu, son.
What do you think, Neil?
Really good.
Yeah?
Is this no time? Is it also a no time to die drink or just the glasses?
Just a glass.
There you go.
It's a cherry blossom.
Yep, cherry blossom.
That's the name. That's the name of the cocktail.
Cocktail.
All right. Yeah. Would you know that there is sake in there?
No,
No.
not at all. It's very. It's
I actually don't
Well, hang on.
like cherry.
No, you've said it. I would.
Yeah.
This one, you don't feel like it's cherry. It's fruity, but it's not cherry.
Good.
Yeah, we only had.
How is that, Lydia?
I'll try.
Thumbs up. Thumbs up for the first one. Alex, did you even get a shot of that? Or were
Yeah, I got the sip, you know.
you got to smell it. So
They are a bit of a go-to for me.
A tip for the olive in the sakatini, maybe take the lump of cheese and the herbs off the olive.
Unless you want a fettuccine.
Fettuccine, yeah. Fetch my... Yeah. Okay, it's going everywhere. I don't actually think this shaker's much good. Pete, this is... This is... No, it's mine. It's a 007 one. I wouldn't offend your shaker like that.
No, mine's probably been battered around.
Because look, each time I shake it, it goes everywhere.
007.
Pete, this is an appalling video now.
Oh, sorry. Welcome to the show. We've got my friend Eisuke. He's based in Japan. I think a lot of people will recognize him by the name of InspiredByBond. Obviously, he's been on the show a bunch of times. How are we doing today, Eisuke?
Very good. Thank you.
Well, I know it's late in the day there, so thanks for jumping on. You're working, so you primarily work within the hospitality industry, so food and beverage. What are people asking for typically when they're in your restaurant, and do they ask for a sake menu much like they'd ask for a wine menu?
For national guests, so like for Japanese guests, they have a very vague idea of what they want to drink. People consider pairing it with food, which is sort of an ideal cool thing if they want to, if they knew how to do it. So they believe, we as service people believe that we have the expertise to do so. That's why they would ask us, okay, how would I pair this meal or with this sake, or can you run me through like a perfect combination for each dish, kind of thing. We do have sort of a set. So like, for example, for this appetizer, we like to recommend this kind of sake. It is kind of like a pairing thing. So in that vein, it is very close to wine. But most people, it is a very vague thing. Not many experts come to our hotel, especially for the younger generation, not knowing too much about sake. They would say, okay, I want something sweet, I want something dry, I want something best served hot, is probably, you know, the stretch to where it gets. But that, you know, you start off with something vague, and we work with them to see, okay, what do they want to really drink.
So what about cocktails? Do you have something that's very common with a sake cocktail that could be easily made at home?
In terms of cocktail making, as long as you have Cointreau, which is like orange liqueur, and you know, orange liqueur and some, you know, lemon juice or anything, you can make a number of cocktails depending on the hard liquor you're basing it from. For example, there's a certain like golden recipe where like you change the for example, for brandy with Cointreau and lemon, it makes a sidecar. Like, so it's like, no, there's a certain formula, and if you put that very basic formula and change the hard liquor into sake, you get something called a kamikaze, which is a very, I mean, it's easy to make as long as you have a cocktail shaker at home. All you need are very few ingredients to make that short cocktail. To be honest, I'm not too much of a fan of it. Yeah, sake does get to be, you know, very delicate. So once, you know, you shake it all with ice, add liquor, it changes, you know, the texture and everything. So it gets a bit, I wouldn't recommend it, but, you know, I know people who would love it. But what I would actually recommend would be a saketini. It's like a martini, but, well, you know, as you can guess, it's basically a martini, but you're making it with sake. And as we know, martini is gin and vermouth. Saketinis exist in either way, so you can change the gin to a sake and add vermouth, or you can change the vermouth to sake, so you can go gin and sake to make a saketini. And as long as you have the olive, either way works. I'm not sure if shaken or stirred was the right way, but I mean, I guess if, you know, it works in either way, I guess anything works. I personally like that a lot, especially shaken, not stirred.
And what about the hot versus cold debate? So obviously in the film it's 98.4, and that is the correct temperature to serve sake. But from what little reading that I've done around this subject, you can serve sake almost at any temperature, and it's up to the individual to which temperature they like their sake. Is that true?
That is true. I think, yeah, even in Japanese, you have like different terms for different temperatures. So like nuru, atsuhi, like you have loads of words that mean certain things just by the difference of a few degrees. And I think, what was it again? Oh, well, 98.4 degrees Fahrenheit in Celsius is 36 degrees. So since I speak Celsius, 36 degrees Celsius, which is pretty much like how should I say, just, you know, human temperature. So it's the very standard temperature, which I believe is also the best, because sake, some people say, it strikes the best balance between the alcohol content and sort of the umami flavor that, you know, balances out. Any warmer, you're going to kill the alcohol, and you're going to change the balance. Some people like it that way, and there are certain sakes that are served best in a very high temperature. But if you're going to drink something relatively, how should I say, like strong in scent, you want something that is human temperature, like 98.4 degrees Fahrenheit, because it strikes the perfect balance between sort of alcohol content and the flavor. So okay. I would say, yeah, James Bond was right in that vein. If he extended more into sort of, you know, what kind of sake, we would know for sure that was, you know, really best served at 98.4 degrees Fahrenheit.
And I know there's also like a practice, or a good practice around sake, that you pour somebody else their drink. You don't pour yourself your own sake. How is that adhered in Japan? Is it like a very strict rule, or is it kind of fast and loose?
It's fast and loose. In terms of our restaurant particularly, there are so many rules in terms of sake. You know, you can go on forever about, like, for example, okay, well, I have mine here as a bottle, but you
bring it
never
up to the camera there. Bring it up to the camera. It's just a little bit. what we're looking at there?
Yeah, so you never serve it as a bottle. You change it into something called like a serving cup called a
Yeah.
tokkuri.
Hmm.
And there are weird rules. Like one rule was to serve it from the other way around. So there's like a pouring edge that it makes it easier to pour, but that is considered disrespectful because for some reason. So that's why correct manners say that you serve it from the other way around. But to be honest, that spills all over the place and it's just inefficient. So there are certain like ancient rules in terms of sake, but yes, in terms of like the basics of how you want certain, in terms of the basics, so say this was the tokkuri, you would definitely hold it by both hands, and you're gonna, you never, so both hands shows respect, one hand shows sort of familiarity, for instance, and usually in an occasion where you would drink sake with someone, you would drink it to the most, no, you would pour not youngest, but the most respected in the room would be poured, and the youngest or the least of the peers would be pouring. But if the most respected in the room would pour for you, you would have to hold up your cup, and
okay.
So it is kind of like
Like
you pour my kind of thing. Though, one taboo, or one thing you shouldn't be doing, is that you have to hold. So if someone's pouring a cup of sake for you, what you don't want to do is put the cup on the table and like wine. You don't want someone to pour your sake on the cup that's on the table, because that would be considered disrespectful. So if someone's pouring sake for you, you're gonna have to hold up your cup, so it makes it easier for them to.
Okay.
So that's one definite rule, I would say. But yes, that'll be the most, I should say, prominent.
Yeah. If you're in town, or if you're visiting Tokyo or Japan or wherever, and you want to try some, is there a brand that you recommend above all else when you go to a bar that's relatively inexpensive, but you just want to get a really good, safe, solid sake?
Well, so one thing I would definitely say is that unlike wine, just because it's cheap doesn't mean it's crap. Although there are crap. For example, the one I'm drinking is one of my favorites. It's one of the biggest in the prefecture, though it's super cheap and it works really well. And I know more expensive sake that tastes much shit. So one thing, price doesn't decide on everything. So one thing I would say is definitely ask, what do you recommend the most? That's a question we get like 10 times a day, and everyone has an answer for that. Some people say, okay, this is the best, or others say, okay, do you want something dry or sweet? We have recommendations for both. And there are certain sakes that are on our menu, but we don't recommend too much. Although they are expensive, but it's not the best. So we definitely pay respect to people who want solid recommendations, but that doesn't mean we're going to sell you the most expensive one in the menu. So one thing, just leave it to the people who serve it all the time.
Great. All right, mate. I'm running out of time here. Sorry, it's just going to cut off any minute. The Zoom's gonna cut us off. But great chatting to you. And I'll speak to you soon, buddy.